Awesome. Thank you very much, John. It's great to be introduced by a fellow John. So I'm very, very happy to be joining today and be able to share a little bit of the work that's occurred over the last few years about trying to cultivate a community of practice, mainly between inorganic faculty across North America to develop some greener undergrad teaching resources. So, AKA, the other title for my slide or my presentation is John's Quest for Green Chemistry Kinship. And I have a little, if you follow Zelda, this is a link that I've modified. It's me on my quest for finding a community, which I think really aligns well with this idea of trying to form a global community to transform green chemistry education. So, little overview of my talk. I'll give a very brief background just about me and the University of Toronto to give some context, and then I'll move on to talking about how I've connected with Beyond Benign, working with a fellowship, trying to develop these resources. I'll talk a little bit about the process that we went through trying to find the community to work on this, as well as how we connected virtually. And then I'll sort of conclude by talking about the future, which I think is this green chemistry teaching and learning community that John is, the other John is really taking the charge and leading. So my path to green chemistry. So I started at McMaster University, which is in Hamilton, Canada, with my undergrad degree in chemistry, as well as moving on to do my PhD in inorganic chemistry. And really at this point, I had no exposure whatsoever to green chemistry, never heard of it until 2017, when Dr. John Warner himself, one of the co-founders of Beyond Benign, happened to come to our campus and give a presentation on green chemistry. And this is really when I first heard about these ideas and these concepts, and it really sort of gave a shift inside of me where I wanted to pursue this a lot further. So at this point, I'm at 0% progress in my quest for green chemistry, really just at the beginning. I did want to also highlight that in 2023, McMaster signed on as a new signer with the green chemistry commitment as well. So moving forward, after I finished my PhD, I joined the University of Toronto, which is a green chemistry commitment signer for, I think it was the first in Canada, to do my postdoc. And at this time, I really had quite a few interactions with our graduate student organization, the Green Chemistry Initiative, and they had a number of symposiums. I parlayed with them quite a bit, learning about green chemistry. And this was sort of propelled me on my my journey to really try to be involved more with green chemistry. And in 2019, as John mentioned, when I joined the department at the University of Toronto as assistant professor, it's really when I started working alone to incorporate green chemistry into the inorganic labs, which were my predominant teaching responsibility at the time. So this is where I was at in my quest, working alone, trying to add green chemistry into our curriculum as best I could with the limited knowledge that I really had at the time. At the University of Toronto, I won't go through all of this, but we really have a systems thinking approach where green chemistry is incorporated into a lot of our different courses. Our first year sort of general, our organic courses in green, and as they progress into upper years, some organic and environmental courses, overall culminating in potentially getting sort of a transcript notation, a focus on green chemistry, which we started offering last year. So my role or my position in this sort of systems approach was, again, the inorganic curriculum, which up until that point really had no green chemistry whatsoever. When it comes to community, I was very fortunate that there's a number of sort of key players at the University of Toronto: Andy Dix, Barb Mora, and Jess Dion. Some of you may have interacted or are aware of these fantastic members of the green chemistry community. However, I'd note that really their focus is more on organic, and Jess is more an environmental chemist. So I really didn't find sort of my crowd or my tribe of inorganic chemists trying to work in this space. Fortunately, my colleague Andy Dix was able to connect me with Natalie at Beyond Benign, and there was an opportunity that to join as a Greener Lab faculty fellow with some support by Millipore Sigma, where coincidentally they were hoping to develop some resources to offer for greener inorganic as well as general chemistry laboratory. So this was really fortunate that my colleague thought of me, connected me, and I applied for this and was fortunately awarded this fellowship to work alongside Beyond Benign to try to form a group, which is my community, to develop these resources in more depth. So how do we find the community? It's a bit of a process. Of course, this is starting in 2020, which was an interesting time, to say the least, to begin anything. So one of the first things we did was one of the earlier Green Chemistry Connections, like we're all here today, was I presented about some of my work that I was doing within inorganic chemistry, and sort of put out a call to recruit anyone that's interested to participate in order to contribute some resources and help develop resources to put together this guide for greener inorganic as well as Gen Chem experiments. So this was sort of the first call to action, where we reached out to Connection members asking if anyone was interested in working together on this project. I also reached out to some other networks. So one that's very big in the inorganic community is the Interactive Online Network of Inorganic Chemists, Ionic. They have a really active community, both on a website, which I've listed here, as well as an extraordinarily active Discord. So if you're familiar with Discord, I'll talk a bit more about that moving forward. Really active Discord community. So I reached out and sort of put out some probes if anyone was interested in working to sort of evolve this inorganic green chemistry space, and as well as presenting at sort of an online teaching Zoom session that they were holding as well, since everything had gone online at this point, called Slithers. So I presented and talked a little bit there, and invited participants as well to come join our community and work together to try to build these resources. So in the end, in addition to myself and the Beyond Benign members, we were able to attract 15 active collaborators, and these span 7 green chemistry commitment institutions. So about half of the institutions are very active and committed with Beyond Benign to green chemistry, and there were about half probably that at this point weren't committed, and as well were a little bit newer to the green chemistry community, with potentially very little, if no, green chemistry background, but nevertheless an interest in green chemistry. We also had the Department of Ecology, Saskia, join, which was a government organization as well, to help with this project. So now that we had a community that we've sort of assembled to work on this, how did we connect with one another? Well, one thing we began with and continued throughout working together over a year or two was monthly virtual meetings. So we'd meet over Zoom for a 1 to 2 hour long meeting. This was usually organized by myself or Natalie as well, where we do some organizing, some planning. We'd meet and discuss. We had breakout rooms where we could sort of divide up and review papers and talk about stuff of how we wanted to move forward. And this was sort of really the first opportunity where I had to connect with my inorganic green chemistry sort of community. And it was a nice way of getting together again during COVID to connect online and have these discussions. Another route we took towards trying to connect, which was a big effort on Natalie's part, was forming a Google website. So a Google site where all the members had access. Set a number of different benefits, so we could post recordings of the meetings for other group members. There's transcripts and things we could add. It had a nice setup for sort of organizing Google shared docs, so where people could drop in different papers, they could drop in drafts of different things they were working on. So that was really, really great. Some nice pros to sort of organizing the things we were working on together. It was really quite terrible for communicating in between our meetings. Really no communication. You could kind of send these weird email group spam things to the group, but it was very clunky. So really kind of took away that sense of community where you're not able to interact regularly or with much ease whatsoever. So what we ended up moving to by just a few months after, by January 2021, is we actually switched to using a Discord, or we formed a Discord server. So this was sort of modeling what was done in the Ionic community, where they had that really vibrant Discord community. And there's a lot of pros to these discords. So one, you can access it from a computer or a smart device like a phone or a tablet. You can make all sorts of different little channels for topics where people can go to and talk. It's sort of like a instant messaging system. So you can, do group messages. You can do messages within the channels. You can direct message people. You can share and upload documents and files. And it really gave an opportunity to have sort of more conversations and that community feel where you could talk to people on the side, talk to everyone together, and check in more frequently than just once a month or through email. One of the cons to this sort of Discord is not every member was comfortable using Discord or really regular in going on it. You had to actually sign in. It's a separate program, or there's a website for it, but you have to make a separate account and you have to log on. So that was sort of one sort of con, I guess, with trying to have this community gather through this sort of route. But this is how we proceeded for a good year, essentially, of working together on these resources. And once I sort of found this community and we had ways to communicate, I did want to point out that it was very fruitful, both professionally and personally. Lots of really great connections with all of the members of the Inorganic group that we sort of assembled. So this is an example of a collaboration with my colleague Matthew Kranzwick and Ed Zovinka, where we put together a inorganic or a teaching lab where students would synthesize porphyrins with microwave, and then they could metallate it using mechanochemistry or green reflexes. And it was really a green focused lab that we put together and are including in the resources that we're sharing. And we were able to actually publish this in a special green chemistry education collection in Green Chemistry Letters and Reviews, which was edited by Lloyd Baskin, I think, who's actually on the call today. So if you're interested in that, you can try to connect with him. So really, really fruitful. Students were involved in this as well. And this is just one of the many sort of projects and collaborations that took place by bringing this amazing group of people together. So in the end, we've put together a whole bunch of great resources for general and inorganic chemistry. So there's some revamped sort of introductory and refocused materials from the previous guide that's still out for organic chemistry with Beyond Benign. And we put together 8 general chemistry experiments that have a more green-centric focus, 6 inorganic experiments, and a whole bunch of sort of instructor TA guide sample quizzes, et cetera, et cetera. And really, really want to thank Millport Sigma for investing in helping us put this sort of resource together. And this is expected to be released this summer, hopefully, as part of the Green Chemistry Teaching and Learning Community online website that will hopefully be up and running. So to sort of wrap up my talk, you've sort of seen a brief overview of my quest, my journey for green chemistry kinship. A lot of legwork, sort of reaching out, going to talk on different platforms at Connections, trying to find people and bring people together. So I really think the future looks bright and is a lot less work for the individual when it comes to this new resource that's being launched this summer with Beyond Benign and the ACS Green Chemistry Institute. So this Green Chemistry Teaching and Learning community has an opportunity to share resources, collaboration. You can make a profile. There's ways to network, opportunities for mentorship. I'm not going to talk too much about it. Maybe, hopefully John will mention it, but if not, you can reach out to John Moyer if you're interested in learning more. And of course, this is being launched hopefully later this summer. So I think this is going to really help everyone, whether you're new to the green chemistry community or you've been a member for a long time, help everyone come together in a very efficient and easy way. So my takeaway message, green chemistry community, beyond welcoming. If you're new, once you kind of get your foot in the door and you reach out, the community is beyond welcoming, like overwhelmingly welcoming. Lots of interested, like-minded people, many here today probably. So try to use those breakout rooms to connect as much as possible. And everyone's very willing to share resources, collaborate, and have these discussions. And then moving forward, keep an eye open for the green chemistry teaching and learning community. It's going to make connecting and sharing so much easier. than sort of the process we've had to go through leading up to this point in time. So with that, I want to thank you very much for listening to sort of my quest here. I want to thank Natalie for sort of bringing me into Beyond Benign and helping me along this sort of process. My collaborators, Matthew Cranswick, Edward Zavinka, and all of the Greener Lab work group members, which I've listed on the side, particularly Jonathan Moyer, who's sort of leading the introductory section of that guide, and Dean Campbell, who's really been worked quite hard on putting together more the general chemistry resources. So with that, thank you. And I will, I guess, toss it back to you, John.